WBC belt that has included Ali, the greatest of all time. They are set and ready to answer who's the greatest of right now. Wilder, Fury 2, here we go.
Okay, we'll start with this. Well, Boxrec's recent updates to their pound-for-pound list seem to have grabbed a lot of people's attention.
Really?
Why is a mystery, as, you know, pound-for-pound lists, overall, vary from person to person, from periodical to periodical. Boxrec's pound-for-pound list is not identical with ESPN's or Ring Magazine's or Transnational's.
They're all different.
They all have their different criterias. They're all structured differently, more or less.
Yeah, they are.
I guess what grabbed people's attention about Boxrec's recent pound-for-pound list is how much sense it doesn't make that there are three heavyweights ranked on the list, even though the basic idea of a pound-for-pound list is to rate smaller fighters that aren't heavyweights on the premise of their skill.
I mean, that's literally what the list is for.
That's why the goddamn thing's called the pound-for-pound list. To acknowledge that even though some fighters are smaller than these lumbering lummoxes in the heavyweight division, those smaller fighters are pound-for-pound better fighters than those heavyweights on the premise of their skill. The basic idea is that in a real-life setting, while that heavyweight might have a size advantage over that middleweight, for example, that size advantage doesn't make the heavyweight a better fighter,
skill-wise,
or a more skilled fighter than that middleweight. It's just that he's bigger than he is. So if that middleweight were the same size as that heavyweight, given that middleweight's skill set, in all likelihood, he would beat that naturally bigger man, that heavyweight.
That's the idea.
Strip away the heavyweight's natural size advantage and keep all these guys on an even keel. Get them all on an even playing field, and it will be skill that wins the match. It will be skill that prevails. That's why the pound-for-pound list, in essence, is a skills assessment.
An assessment of who's more skilled.
Now, how someone measures skill varies from person to person. You got a lot of people trying to arrive to the same conclusion in different ways.
Some guys use eye tests,
professional or otherwise, which are little more than opinions, anecdotes.
Which are unreliable.
There are those kinds of people that make those kinds of lists. Others use a governing criteria, some kind of hierarchy of thought that is subjective, and it's subject to whatever the author decides is the unit of measure. I mean, there's all kinds of lists out there, and they all look different. It's up to you, the individual, to decide what makes sense to you as an individual. It's just that Boxrec's recent pound-for-pound list doesn't seem to make sense to anybody.
Nope.
You got three heavyweights ranked on a pound-for-pound list, which is already a redundancy. If you're gonna rank heavyweights, that defeats the fucking purpose of the list. Is your first problem. The second problem is that Boxrec's pound-for-pound list isn't actually measuring these guys' skills so much as tabulating points based on its own algorithm. Flawed algorithm, from what I can see. I mean, look at what they've got Deontay Wilder. They've got this guy ranked as a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter, and never mind that he's a fucking heavyweight and he shouldn't be there anyway. The fact that he is...
Let's discuss it.
If you're going based on this pound-for-pound list, essentially what Boxrec is telling you is that Deontay Wilder is a more skilled fighter than either Terence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, Anthony Joshua, Vasyl Lomachenko, Sean Porter, and several others. All those ranked behind him. That's essentially what the list is communicating to you.
That he's more skilled than they are.
As that is what a pound-for-pound list is intended to do. It's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to rank the fighters on the premise of skill. So if you've got Deontay Wilder ahead of all these guys ranked at number 5, essentially what you're saying is he's more skilled than they are.
He's more skilled than Terence Crawford?
Than Manny Pacquiao? Than Vasyl Lomachenko? Really?
And what exactly is this rank based on?
It's based on an algorithm. It's based on an algorithm that doesn't necessarily assess skill so much as tabulate points. And if by some chance this point-based system is saying that through some means Deontay Wilder has amassed more points than a Manny Pacquiao, more points than a Terence Crawford, more points than a Vasyl Lomachenko, what you then have to ask yourself is how are these points being distributed, and how do we know that this algorithm isn't flawed? Because in the realm of boxing and boxing skill, this doesn't actually make any sense. Deontay Wilder hasn't defeated more top contenders or world champions than a Manny Pacquiao, than a Terence Crawford, or a Vasyl Lomachenko, yet he's ranked ahead of them. So if he has more points than they do, what is that based on, and how are these points actually being distributed? As what points have already been distributed to Deontay Wilder, for example? They can't have been distributed to him based on how many world champions he's defeated. He's only defeated one active reigning world champion. Can't be based on how many top contenders he's fought. All these other guys ranked behind him have fought more top contenders and world champions, Hall of Famers, than he has. Yet he's ranked ahead of them.
So why does he have more points than they do?
Short answer, it's because this algorithm that Boxrec uses is flawed. It's short-sighted.
Short-sighted, it's fucking blind.
What the hell have either Tyson Fury or Errol Spence Jr. done that a Terence Crawford hasn't done? If anything, he's done things that they haven't done. Have either of them ever been undisputed champions in possession of all the alphabet titles, the Ring Magazine title, and the figurative lineal status Tyson Fury seems to be enamored with?
Crawford's been Ring Magazine and lineal champion 2 times.
In 2 weight classes to Tyson Fury's 1, Tyson Fury being a career heavyweight. Tyson Fury's never been a world champion in 3 separate weight classes. Terence Crawford has. Manny Pacquiao's been a world champion in 8. But for some reason, Tyson Fury is ranked ahead of both of these fighters. And it's all based on points. So one has to ask, how'd Tyson Fury end up with more points than those guys? Because it can't be based on how many divisions they fought in, world titles they've won from world champions. It certainly can't be based on title defenses, as Tyson Fury has never defended a single title he's ever held.
Not yet.
So if this guy's got more points than they do, what the hell is it based on?
Not boxing.
How'd he get them? I'll tell you something. Boxrec's pound-for-pound debacle is only as relevant to you, the individual, as you want it to be. You know, these aren't divisional rank standings, which are more finite, more conclusive. This is a pound-for-pound list.
You can accept it or reject it.
Or you can decide to make your own, with its own structure, infrastructure, governing criteria, that covers all the bases and doesn't have all the plot twists and plot holes that Boxrec does.
I ain't gonna lose any sleep over this dumb shit.
Here at Ring IQ, we have our own pound-for-pound list with its own hierarchy of thought, governing criteria based on the fighter's records, in unison with other factors that are relevant to the sport of boxing, you understand. And you can accept that list, or reject it, or decide to make your own. I mean, it's really up to you. But as far as Boxrec's debacle, it's just a reminder of what I've been telling you all along. Boxrec, as far as pound-for-pound lists go, is tabulating points, not measuring skill.
That's where their list looks so shot to shit.
There is a difference between assessing a fighter's skill, that fighter's skill set, and merely abiding by the parameters of an algorithm, and what outcomes, what results that algorithm gives you, whether it's flawed or flawless, you know. It does appear in the case of Boxrec that their algorithm needs some tweaking, because this list is not in keeping with any logic, any hierarchy of thought when it comes to boxing. It's just doing what it does, tabulating points.
You can either accept that or reject it.
Moving on. Golden Boy Promotions star Jojo Diaz blasts fake story regarding world title rematch. Golden Boy Promotions star Jojo Diaz Jr. has dismissed a report stating he was attempting to negate on a world title rematch with Tevin Farmer. Diaz, who took the IBF super featherweight title from Farmer in January, is contracted for a second clash with the now former title holder. When this fact was challenged via social media, Diaz reacted angrily and set the record straight. This shit is fake. You don't know what you're talking about, said Diaz. Who are your sources? Have you seen the contract? Try being a real journalist instead of a biased fanboy or company man. Adding further, when it was put to Diaz that Oscar De La Hoya or Eric Gomez may have stated it was a possibility, he stated, well, my promoter don't speak for me. Farmer's representative Lou DiBella then confirmed the pair will go at it again in the near future. Jojo is contracted to give Tevin Farmer a rematch immediately, with no exceptions, cleared up DiBella. His promoter got him a title shot by making that deal when he wasn't mandatory and would not otherwise have gotten an opportunity. No one used anyone. You make a deal, you honor it. Now here's the thing. Perhaps the people over there at Golden Boy are looking at another guy, another opponent for JoJo's next fight, not because they're trying to skip out on Farmer, but because JoJo's under strict orders from the IBF to satisfy his mandatory. Rock him off. And if he doesn't satisfy that mandatory, we all know what the IBF's gonna do. They're gonna strip JoJo of that fucking title. So maybe that's why they were looking at somebody else. Maybe that somebody else that they were looking at was JoJo's fucking mandatory.
Probably was.
Look, I'm sure that Tevin Farmer wants the opportunity to win his belt back. But if he tries to fight Joseph Diaz next, he might miss out on that opportunity, and that belt might go to Rakimov. And that don't benefit Jojo Diaz any more than it benefits Tevin Farmer. What Team Farmer and Team Diaz need to do is agree to fight contractually after the Rakimov fight.
On paper.
Let Jojo Diaz out of that previous agreement, that previous engagement, that contractual obligation. Let him out of that so long as he signs a new agreement to face Tevin Farmer after he satisfies his mandatory challenger. Problem solved. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I'll tell you something. You push too fucking hard for this thing, and neither one of you two guys are gonna be fighting for that title.
Is that what you want?
It's not just rematches for the sake of rematches. It's the opportunity to win your belt back.
Otherwise, what's the rematch for?
That fucking shit. Might as well not have the rematch at all. You can't fight for the world title. You let JoJo out of the old deal. You make a new deal. He's got to fight Farmer after Rakimov. Hell, have these two guys fighting on the same card to build up the rematch. Find some Joe Blow for Tevin Farmer to shake off the cobwebs with, to tune up with. Have both these guys fight on the same card. Problem solved. Because I'll tell you what, this really isn't as complex a problem as it appears. It's not as complex as it seems. Jojo Diaz has a mandatory challenger, and he must satisfy that mandatory challenger. Otherwise, he's going to surrender the title, and that doesn't benefit anybody. You say you don't want to let Jojo off the hook, because if you do, you might lose him forever. Here's what you do. You have him sign the new deal first. You get it on paper, and once you got it on paper, then you tear up the old deal. Problem fucking solved. Conjure up some fucking ham and egg guy for Tevin Farmer to fight on the undercard. You're in the clear. It's an ideal situation. And all JoJo's got to do is what he was going to do anyway. Make sure he can hang on to that belt. Defend it against Rakimov, then defend it again in a rematch with Tevin Farmer, which is what you signed on to do anyway.
It's a perfect fucking plan.
Oh, it's fucking perfect. I don't need you to tell me that it's fucking perfect. I know it's perfect. And finally, per tweet from Steve Kim, the manager of Jorge Linares, Jose de la Cruz, says his client will return in September. The focus is still on Ryan Garcia, but he mentioned that if that doesn't come to fruition, the likes of Luke Campbell or Devin Haney, they want a real fight off the bat. And I think that the Jorge Linares people are right to keep their options open, as news in the sport of boxing is always fluid and ever-changing, ever-evolving. These days, you got Ryan Garcia arguing over what his price is every other fucking fight.
No, right?
Whether you think Ryan Garcia is being a diva or he's being a shrewd businessman, one way or another, from where Jorge is sitting, he's got to not just have a plan A, but a plan B and a plan C.
You can't bet it all on Ryan.
You're supposed to be fighting on July 4th. Look what happened to that fucking shit.
Went to the crapper.
All things considered, Jorge is making the right move, and the idea of some of these propositions, Linares versus Haney, I like the sound of that, because it's not just Ryan that needs a quality name and quality scalps on his resume. Devin Haney is in need of a name like Jorge Linares, the same as Ryan Garcia.
So I'll take it.
The story, however, seems to be that Devin Haney may end up defending his WBC lightweight title against Luke Campbell. Luke Campbell, who was supposed to be fighting Javier Fortuna for a Mando spot via the WBC.
Luke might skip that shit.
He may skip that final eliminator, that formality altogether, and simply fight Devin Haney as a voluntary. So if it happens that way, what Jorge Linares can do in that situation is stand in Luke's place. Fight Javier Fortuna in that final eliminator. You win that final eliminator, you got yourself a title shot. Devin Haney, that gives him the opportunity to collect not just one quality scalp in the lightweight division, but two.
Hypothetically speaking.
If Devin fights Luke Campbell and beats Luke Campbell, and if Jorge Linares fights Javier Fortuna and beats Javier Fortuna, those two guys would be set to lock horns thereafter. So it's an ideal scenario in the event that things don't work out between Ryan Garcia and Jorge. Jorge has this course of action, this avenue of opportunity, this option. Jorge, he's no spring chicken. He's got no time to waste on the indecisiveness and prima donna behavior of a very petulant young Ryan Garcia.
We don't know whether that kid's coming or going.
Jorge Linares doesn't have time for that kind of indecisiveness, the kind of indecisiveness that comes with youth, and the kind of youth that for him has long since passed. Jorge's 34 years old. He's already been a champion in 3 weight classes, 47 wins, 29 knockouts.
Yeah.
5 losses. Each one of those losses, Jorge got stopped. Do you think this guy's got time to bank on some wet behind the ears green kid to make up his fucking mind what he wants to do?
You can't bank on that.
I mean, if the upper level management at Golden Boy Promotions, who promotes this kid, can't rely on him to fill a slot on a July 4th fight date they were trying to work out, if they can't rely on him, what the fuck makes Jorge think he can rely on him? No, Jorge's got the right idea. Ryan might be your plan A, but if plan A doesn't work out, you got plan B, C, and D. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you one fucking thing, okay? I don't think that Ryan Garcia is looking at this situation, these situations, in the proper scope. Ryan Garcia's got a solid social media following, and that's very good. It's a very good foundation and a very good platform to launch and build upon his boxing career. But there is a difference between getting people to follow you on an Instagram or a Twitter and actually getting that same number of people to pay to see you fight. Doesn't cost nobody nothing to follow a guy on Instagram where Ryan Garcia's got, 6.4 million followers, something like that? That's good. That's 6.4 million people that know who you are. But how many of those people can you get to pay to see you fight?
How many?
The only way you're going to do that is to sell the sizzle, sell the intrigue of a fight fan not knowing what's going to happen when 2 guys are in the ring. The only way you can achieve that level of intrigue is with the quality of your competition and stepping up in competition to have those kinds of fights. Because those are the kind of fights that make people pull out their wallets.
Few exceptions aside.
If by some chance Ryan were to miss out on this opportunity to fight the former lightweight champion Jorge Linares, what you gotta ask yourself is, okay, where does he go from there? Is he going to be ready to fight Devin Haney by that time?
Teofimo Lopez?
Vasil Lomachenko, Luke Campbell, Javier Fortuna. Is he open to those kinds of fights? You can knock out Dunos and Fonsecas for a while you're a prospect. But after a while, the fight fans are going to be clamoring for something intriguing, something with some sizzle.
And it's up to you to give it to him.